So maybe I just start, and then we can say, okay, so just said again that the topic of today's conversation is revolving around reviewing performance art and opening new horizons because of new internet platforms or the internet. So we already had this funny game to unplug things and not to be online all the time. And I would like to start with the theorist, the French philosopher Henri Lefebvre, which you might all know. He argued that the organization of the urban time and space to fit the lived experience of its citizens and residents could become the focus for a renewal of direct democratic relationships in modern society. And through internet and some internet platforms like blogs or MySpace or YouTube, it's always said this is a major shift towards basic values of democracy, like giving everybody a space in society through internet in terms of communication, expression, and just being there. So. And I also found that Henri Lefebvre has interpreted a sentence by the German poet Friedrich Hölderlin, which says, the human being can only exist as a poet. And Lefebvre says, the relation to the world, to nature, to the desire of the human being, his body, is located in the living space and is realized there and could be read there. So it's not possible for the human being to build something, a space to live, without something that makes it different to everything of the outside world, which means there need to be something reaching out for the imaginary as well for the possible. So I would like to connect those two things with performance art. So because also it can be that through YouTube there could be this other space besides consumer culture, which is, or I don't know, economy, which also is established through a performance, which always is dealing with space in the sense of, I don't know, social space or a space which is created through the situation of art. So, and I would like to know if you think that the internet is doing something to this relations of space which were established. For example, through you are doing your performances are very much based on the direct meeting of people and the direct meeting with the viewer. And do you think there is any? Is this the internet doing any? I don't know. Changing the experience of this meetings you have with people, which you can also do, I don't know, through, like for example.
Yeah, no, it doesn't change the experience. It usually kind of, I'd say, it has an adverse effect in the sense that a lot of people, you know, if I try to tell a story and I want to have a small, like 3 or 4 people, and I kind of set the environment, this little installation, I deliberately say I only want to tell the story to you 3 people. You know, in that sense, that's not 3 particular people, it's anyone who walks through the door at that certain time because I want a story. Mm-hmm. I don't like the idea that people have done that before. They've, like, you know, sat there in the background, you know, with a, what do you call these things, you know, these new mobile phones with like web, they can record things, you know, just record a few things and stick it on YouTube. And then I find it to be quite offensive, actually. I don't really like this. I don't believe that the internet, I mean, okay, of course, you can expand the audiences, of course, but that's not interesting for me. That just does not make it. I never wanted to work the way I do, like verbal monologue storytelling, so I could expand, so I could communicate to more people. So in that respect, the internet, as this other thing that I could use to communicate or to expand the work, has only ever been a little bit of a hindrance, in the sense that, not that I actively try to go against it or to embrace it, but the public themselves always just take the liberty to think, well, taking digital photographs, that's one thing, but I think it's quite different actually, these little snippets that people, and of course it's not just about the recording, it's about what you do with it, and 9 times out of 10 usually they do that, stick on their own personal website, if you start to look on the website and think, if you look at these different things they have, these different forums for things like I love this or I love that, in every different city there's like a different kind of forum with these little posted things, and it doesn't really interest me at all to have my work shown through that forum. But then again, democracy, you could say, or communication, you say, well, do I really want to make these do I really want to say don't do that? Do I want to have these kind of Latina cigar? Do I really want to start to have this paradigm? And I don't want to do that either. Simply, I just want to try to hold true to this sense of just having a conversation, a table, a setup, one-on-one, small people, and these other things are kind of like things I have to deal with, but
because this is exactly the other side of the coin, that it's not only your space you create in society, but people are broadcasting it without your knowledge, maybe even. So. And also you do films, which are really, I don't know, it takes you long to produce them, and they also create a very intimate atmosphere, which is meant to be shown in installations as well. I couldn't find any of your films on YouTube or MySpace.
Right. I know.
So you succeeded to block this, or?
I don't know how long I've succeeded to block it, but I haven't put any online myself. I mean, it's for video artists. It's interesting to see who has put their work online and who hasn't. Olaf Bruning has his films on the internet, for instance, or Ryan Garten. But many video artists don't. I mean, I think the quality of this YouTube video is very specific. It has a really special kind of look to it that is a bit like Pixel Vision or something from the 80s. And for me, I'm not interested yet in how that looks aesthetically for my own work, although I could see really spending time to try to find the beauty in it. But for some artists, it's an asset, I guess. But I think the interesting thing for me about the YouTube space as a kind of video space or as a recorded media space is that the time index and the way of thinking is very different from film, a kind of film narrative space, which is, I remember being in art school and hearing about films having a sense of entertainment or amusement, that the audience is very passive and watches a piece of media that's been prepared for your pleasure, I guess. But with the internet space, with these much shorter indexes of time where you maybe have 30 seconds or a minute to really capture someone's excitement before you lose them, the film format suddenly seems very rigorous and almost intellectual as a kind of concentration experience.
So that's why a lot of artists now, again, also even use analog films like Super 8 or 60 millimeters, which is even more intellectual or a distant gesture or something like that. So
maybe it's seen the differences between reprographic media are seen more as an aesthetic choice or an aesthetic time index, and less of, I think there was a period in the 80s or 90s where artists seemed to just move to whatever camera was the best one for what they could afford. So if you watch the history of Matthew Barney's work, for instance, he moves up in quality, right? So he goes from using video cameras to, is he shooting in film now? No? Or HD?
I think HD.
I'm sure something else.
But even, I think his first one was Laserdisc, actually. I think it came out in Laserdisc.
Yeah. My first video came out on Laserdisc, yeah.
Did it?
And Laserdisc is better quality than DVD, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Less compression, probably.
Right, right. And I remember when the master format switched from Laserdisc to DVD, it was really quite a drag, you know, because you lost all of this richness and texture, and you got all of this artifacting, especially in blacks, you know, there's kind of pixelation, murky stuff.
But on the opposite, this could also be, I don't know, the approach to performance, that you have a special format, you have special parameters, you know how it's going to be broadcasted, and so it maybe even, I don't know what you think, broadens, I don't know, the interests of people to express themselves or maybe do performances themselves in the internet. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you ever watch YouTube? Do you MySpace? Do you?
I do. I mean, I think everyone has their own genres that they're the most interested in YouTube. So I like dance videos that are made in people's houses.
Exactly.
Very much. And I like being able to access kind of more historical film media. So films from the 20s and 30s, or which always you get these short segments, right? You don't get the full film. Rock videos, you know, from the 80s or 90s. But this, I mean, this is a different thing. I think the YouTube space is, it's a video store of sorts, right? Where you don't have to pay for your rental, but it's just a huge, endless ocean of stored media. And I think that the MySpace space, or even these live webcam things like we're doing right now, where people put their lives on display for extended periods of time, is a different kind of time index and a different kind of way of experiencing a recorded image of another human being.
Yeah, but I mean, it has some artists and artistry, things like Dieter Roth. He filmed his whole life, which would be obsolete today because everybody is doing it. So I think it has affections, vice versa, on performance art, because this kind of performances would not be interested any longer. So. And on the other side, I don't know, it's like this Henri Lefebvre, that the revolution starts at home. So, I mean, we're creating a community, a space with the art field. And I don't know if you think that more people can, I don't know, get involved with it or get more interested in, like, I don't know, like, for example, of storytelling things, or... You never watch YouTube, was my... No. You're just not interested in...
No. But I don't think it's... I mean, there are many things that YouTube can then communicate that a lot of performance artists can then say, well, that's something that's really fun, that's great, I would have done that as an artwork. I think that's totally fine as well. It just, you know, I think in that respect, then it also is a question of what's being communicated and what's being experienced. And I don't have... With internet, right, I mean, like, I just barely send an email, like, I'm really just... I have no experience. If I want to research things I'm interested in, I would generally go to things that I heard about, sort of like UbiWeb or something, where you say, okay, I want to get a file about such and such performance hall, the futurists, and they have it all. Do you know what I mean? Like, in that respect, I only know what I hear about them, so I'll check this website out for research purposes. For experience, though, for the idea of experiencing a performance or experiencing something that I think could be interesting, I've never ever gone through the internet, but I don't know how many people do either. You know, I think to go to YouTube is not about experience, it's about seeing something that you think, oh, click on this button here, so I can look at a labyrinth of these different associate things that are there to say, you know, different genres, this and that. But in that respect, those different genres could also kind of cross over with what we do as artists, perhaps, and say, well, now what's happening, it's been totally spread through. Absolutely fine. Then the question is, at the end of it, you know, does that actually make a difference to the way in which audiences experience the work? And no, it doesn't, because the audience is experiencing like this, and even if you do it here in an auditorium or this in a setting like here, that experience is totally different, and that's where the value lies as well. I think not the message or the dance move, you know, but the experience of it. And I think that's great in one respect. So many opportunities are taken away or being disseminated to a greater audience, but then what's left and the things that we have left as artists to deal with, I think can also be of a higher kind of enjoyment for the public or for the performers. So I think it's totally. I mean, I to be honest, I don't really think about the internet at all in regards to my work or as a problem. I get pissed off if someone does this thing because I find just slightly disrespectful. I don't like the idea of it. But you know, I mean, that's the same as when cars drive by and you know water splashes all over you when it's a rainy day. It's the kind of thing that you don't like, but you just ignore.
So I mean that's the next thing, the economic thing. But I mean, I'm also using YouTube as an archive, as a storage where I have easy access to. But both of you are showing, or you do your performances. You're showing your films and installations, so you create a specific atmosphere. But there are some artists who put themselves their films on YouTube. So and I think it's also this is also the basic question of the performances, especially in your case, what to sell. So there's even less you can, I don't know, sell. What are you selling? You're selling nothing, because you need all the preps and things you need for your performances, which is.
Well, I pretend I need them.
Okay.
I don't really need them.
Okay.
But it's almost like a mythology of the objects. You know, you kind of say, look, here's a table, and I need all these things to perform. And you do it for like 2-3 years, and you say, now through this activity repetition, these have new value, right? But then if they get stolen, which has happened in my life, I have had an artwork stolen like this. And if the work is stolen, then you say, no, I can't tell the story. And you say, these objects now are irreplaceable. But then when you like go to the legal case, and you spend a year with the institution trying to battle for your rights, which I've done, at the end of it, then you say, oh, but you know, I can just pop down the high street and buy the same things. It's only a hand shredder, it's only a pen, it's only a document. But it's the experience or that repetition of 3 years worth that you think there's the value, you know. And I mean, I have these prints and images that I put on the thing, and where the egg timer lays, where the objects have been, there's all the scratch marks. And arguably, you would say, if you want to buy that photograph, you would say, I'd like you to print it again. But then those scratch marks where the egg timer's been there for 3 years has the value, like the traces of it. But at the end of the day, if I wanted to, yeah, I mean, every little object I could start to kind of start to put into the categories like A, B, C, D, value. But it hasn't been something that I've tried to pursue, and as yet, and I don't. You know, but they were different. And then, of course, there's the contract as well, which is always, you know, an option as well. So there's definitely things to sell. I just haven't really gone about doing that too vigorously. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not really been something I've tried to do.
So you somehow have to make a living. You have to live.
Yeah.
But you also have like vinyl record. Like you do some stories that are just oral, or meant to be, or can be received orally by people, which I think is interesting. And I was thinking about your work after I had gone to see your performance or experience your performance, and I was thinking, you know, well, how does he document his work? And I was thinking, you know, video, would that be interesting? And actually it wouldn't be very interesting for your work. I mean, your work is about that kind of intimate engagement that you have with whoever you're talking to. And I think that's interesting, but it's interesting, however, as well, that it almost works, though, as an oral document. Like a record of your work, I could see actually being a useful way of getting your message out there, because it's almost a very intimate technology sound. Right? The visual almost distances you. I think a mediated image distances you from the work in a way.
But I think in particular your work is very difficult because all the performances are somehow intertwining, and it's an ongoing story. You're creating a web of references, which is, I mean, it's your whole life. So, and also this is very hard to pick something and put it on the internet, because you don't get the whole story, the whole feeling. So. You hate it, and what would you do if somebody would put some of your films, like pirate copies, on YouTube?
I wouldn't care. I mean, I like the idea of people that couldn't afford expensive artwork being able to have it, but you know, I think one of the interesting things that is happening for me anyway with this overload of lo-fi reprographic media is that it's really given me a heightened sense of pleasure and connection, I guess, to an actual physical experience, or to something like a record. Like you brought up records, and I've suddenly seen vinyl showing up at friends' houses, with actual record players. And, again, with iTunes, the iTunes version of music is more compressed than a CD, right? So the audio quality has gone down again. Its tapes had a richer sound than CDs, and CDs have a richer sound than, MP3s. So actually, when you listen to the same song on vinyl and on iTunes, it's really like two different pieces of music. It's incredible.
But do you think people compose things for iTunes? Because there are a lot of bands who became famous through MySpace. So I think this is the other way around, so that people really do things for this kind of media. Artists are doing films, and musicians compose music.
And it has its own beauty and its own texture to it. I mean, the limited range, I guess, also has a kind of beauty to it, but you really recognize it as being different now, or you can see a range more and understand also this social space as a space that's a different kind of space. I don't think that the internet is a democratic medium, and I think that a lot of the internet communities that I've experienced are all about prestige, where you count the amount of hits, or you count the amount of friends, or you try to define, you not only have your content, but then you try to declare your audience at the same time, which is, it's about trying to create a sense of curation. I would hand it back to you. Then what does this do to the curator, or to someone that's really framing a discourse?
That's what the curator is doing. They have to be like a seismograph for social changes and also the changes in art worlds, and put that together and create a space to bring these things together. So I'm totally interested in things like that. But I agree with you. It's a completely different audience. What the people who come to your performances and the performances in MySpace, and I'm especially interested about the differences of the media and the differences of the disciples, also performance art and theater. I think it's something completely different. And dance, for example, we had this conversation, the talk the other day, because I think it's not supposed to somehow grow together, but it's going to develop because the other things are developing as well. So, and I think this is interesting to really put it in opposite of those two.
Well, I think it was interesting too that at one point, or at a certain point in history, with the increase in reproductions, the value, or the value in the unique object, was, became kind of spiritual in a way, to kind of go and see the actual Mona Lisa rather than seeing a reproduction of it. But I think that now, with the advent of YouTube and MySpace, I think that there's maybe less and less, and I could be totally wrong on this, but I think there's less and less of that desire to make that contact. So if I see, there's all these people who are becoming famous on YouTube, like there's that one kid who was screaming about Britney Spears and was like so torn up over Britney Spears, and now he's got his own talk show, I think, coming out. Really, really weird sort of like level of fame, but it's almost, I would never feel the need to want to see him or to be in his presence, or to, because what he does is completely within the world of the internet, and completely encapsulated and limited by it. And yet, so it's interesting that he has so much, 1 million hits or something like that, and everyone has this sort of like really, really heavily mediated experience of him, and yet lack the desire to actually meet him or.
And what does that fame mean also? It's fame is such a relative, fleeting thing. How long, I don't even know who this kid is, but how long is he an important voice, or what is his voice saying, actually, I think is another important question.
True. I think with YouTube too, you have these sort of waves of popularity that kind of come and they go as quickly as they come. And
this is what I mean about the time index shrinking.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think that's also fascinating as a curator as well. Like, you know, leading up to Performa, I was really eager to also get some of these big people up here on Performa TV.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, again, it sort of became impossible logistically.
It's still a different world, I think.
It's a totally different world. But there's things like, you know, like the Philippine prison, all that. Do you ever see the dancers? There's a prison in the Philippines where, as a form of exercise, this sort of like very forward-thinking activities counselor decided to get all of the prisoners to dance, to learn the choreography of Thriller. And so
this is a huge YouTube phenomenon, the choreography of Thriller. There are so many different kinds, weddings and really strange.
Yeah.
If you do weddings and Thriller, you can find 50 weddings. It's really bizarre.
It's so bizarre. Well, you know, type in, you know, Philippines prison Thriller, and you'll get this amazing, and it's like 1,000 inmates in a giant courtyard all dancing in unison, and it's just the most amazing thing, and you would never be able to accomplish that. I mean, artists would, I don't know if an artist would have thought of it, but I just think it's interesting how individuals who are not necessarily identified as artists are doing these amazing things on YouTube and sort of presenting it to the world and saying, I don't even know what they're thinking. I don't know if they're thinking that this is going to be interesting. They just say, you know, here it is, you know. It's kind of.
So, but this is something they do fully consciousness. You can, I mean, we can extend this theme to all the web cameras or watching the public space where you can have access, which are really like candid cameras. So. And again, there are some artists who are also using this web cameras to do performances just in front of that. There's a Greek artist living in Berlin, Yorgos Sapountzis. I don't know if you know him from Berlin. I did this fantastic performance just for a web camera in front of the I think it was a Bode Museum in Berlin, which is, I mean, so some people do use it really, but I'm also not quite sure if it has any effect on democracy. I also think it's creating its own spaces with its own rules and laws, and you can also say you don't want to be part of it. It doesn't interest you, and so nothing is happening. A lot of million people watching something and being a web community, but it doesn't have any effect on the.
So what about this thing? What's the difference in having? So I mean, I don't know the internet anyway, but this is like web streaming, right?
I assume so.
Yes.
We could unplug
So what's the advantage?
audio.
What's the advantage in doing this as opposed to just recording it and then putting it on the internet, on YouTube or on the forum afterwards? Like Performa website. Here's a discussion that happened on this date. What's the advantage? I mean, maybe I should be asking the guy out there having a cigarette.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can answer that as well. I think the idea behind this being a web stream was, in a way, I mean, one of the things that interested Ronnie and I was this idea of like the Jenny Cam, which is I guess it's a sort of phenomenon of, well, no, I'll explain it. This phenomenon of like people who have a camera on them 24 hours a day, and actually, Warhol, I think, did it the first time when he like lived with this couple for like a week and filmed them all the time.
Well, right, his first novel.
So it just is this interesting sort of exposure of what happens, you know. So with this, you know, even when there's nothing happening, you're still looking at something, and playing with the kind of banality of having this sort of Performa TV on 24 hours a day. You know, sometimes things happen, sometimes things don't. And I thought that we were talking about it as an interesting sort of playground in a way, because then anything can happen. You don't get the sense of things being edited and sort of, you know, put together neatly in a neat package and presented. It's just sort of there. So that was the idea behind.
So, but do you think that people are watching it the whole day, having it, sitting at the desk?
No, I mean that's nice to think about. I mean, one of the things, you know, Ronnie at one point had some of his music up here, and I think, you know, it was nice to kind of for people to click it on and just sort of have the music and they would have other things on their screen, and they just have the music in the background. But no, what we have now is sort of, you know, we'll like list the shows upcoming, so people will know when to click in and what they'll see. So yeah, it was an experiment.
So you're observing the viewers. How many viewers you have?
We haven't yet. I've decided to do that at the very end.
Okay.
I don't want to stress myself out. We'll just look at it at the end of it all.
Well, I think one of the artists that has worked with the medium most successfully is Brock Enright, with these, where he does this web streaming where people can talk back to him. Have you ever seen any of those?
I haven't, but I talked to him about that.
They're really strange. Yeah, I saw that one in Berlin where the guy cut himself. It's actually on YouTube. This moment where I don't know. It was a performance. It was at Paris Projects, and Brock was doing a live web stream from his bathroom in Brooklyn, but people could talk to him and interact with him. And so that was an interesting use of the medium, I think, because in a way right now we're basically just badly edited or non-edited video, right? It's like it's some hellish TV program with no editor, where it's often really boring and kind of ugly often, and you know, but that the thing that really was exciting to me about this thing that Brock did is that then it really is a conversation or a communication, you know, that in this you know, unattractive pixelated postage stamp of a video, there was this ability to connect to your superstar on the other end with Brock. And that because Brock is such a strong personality and has this very strange kind of hypnotic quality, that the audience was really starting to behave very strangely in relationship to his postage stamp image.
Well, I think it was interesting too for this was to give it up to artists once, you know, presenting laying up the basic groundwork, basically curating a space like we were talking about for things to happen, then to allow artists to fill that space with whatever, you know, they would want. And at one point we were talking with Brock, but I think Brock got too involved with his own piece.
He was tired from his performance.
I think he was very tired from his performance, but I would have loved to have had him, because definitely I think he's one of the most successful people at using this technology. Because in a way, it's like you have to be very intimate with this type of thing. Like you kind of have to really kind of know it and play with it and sort of understand what that relationship is. But I think with his earlier pieces, it was actually just like an iChat almost. It was like a one connection stream, so that there was an audience on one end, all looking at one monitor, and he was on the other end. Whereas this is like worldwide broadcast, which was. So the dream is that people in Japan are watching, but you know, I don't think so.
Then you need a simultaneous translator to go with your.
To go with it, the lady in the room.
I wonder if his projects were also broadcast live, because he did another project at Anton Kern, right? That was this iChat where he was in a studio again in Brooklyn and broadcast live to the gallery.
No, I think it was broadcast live, but I think it was just not like a broadband.
Right. So not
like,
sent back onto the internet.
Yeah, not sort of broadcast from the internet. But
So Brock, if you're watching, you should start doing that too.
Yeah, we had this space for you, Brock.
So what I wonder, Tris, would you ever think about creating something? Could you ever think about creating a performance only for internet? Could you at least think about doing that?
Only for internet?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't think that for only, but yeah, I mean, I could. I mean, if the content or what, or, you know, if the storylines, if what I was working with had a certain kind of avenue or reasoning for it to go through, you know, internet of some sorts, then yeah, I would. But so far, you know, with what I've done and the way I work, it's always been, you know, it's the way I've worked, and there's been reasons for that. So at the moment, I've never had the incentive, or, but you know, I don't really decide. To be honest, it's a bit fickle, but I'm totally indifferent. You know, I really don't. I'm not.
I'm with you, actually. your feet. It's all about your feet moving very quickly. It's beautiful.
So I think Sue is the most experienced from us with YouTube. And
well, I'm always looking for people, you know, and or sometimes when I'm thinking about films or developing a character for a film, it is a nice intimate space to go see real people and you know, see outside of my own experience or my own social circle, which is, I find it to be kind of expansive, but you know, it's anyway. It's funny though, because it is, I'm also interested in it aesthetically. I think that, like I said, I think that there is beauty to this lo-fi quality, and some of these homemade YouTube films can be quite gorgeous, you know, something about the framing or the light, although often it's accidental and you don't really get a sense of an author. It's more about kind of lucky lining up of accidents. And
no, I thought that you might be interested in this a bit after I saw your work in Karlsruhe at the ZKM, which is very much, I think, relating to this kind of aesthetic as well. And also you created this house where you can sit on the sofa, and I mean, not about the story which was shown in the film, but also this, I don't know,
the intimacy.
The intimacy and the developing of the subject of the person. So.
Well, often actually when I'm shooting, I have things that I know that I'm going to shoot, and then, you know, often I'll just shoot with a person for hours and, you know, see if anything happens or if I can get closer to someone. And I have a really amazing cameraman who mostly shoots documentary, and so he has a very special quality of disappearing in a room and creating a relaxed space for the person that we're filming.
So this was a different cameraman to the cameraman you used for the films we were showing at Art and Partner?
No, it's the same one.
Really? It's a completely different.
Well, we switched from two channel to single channel, and we met beforehand and had a lot of conversations about what would happen with the camera, and but if you look at the moments with the people that I'm filming, you can really see, you'll be able to see his camera, I think. You know, there are these moments on Gina's face that really is very shy. He's great.
No, but I think it has a lot to do, you're catching these moments, which I really like, the directness of the internet sometimes has when people are, broadcasting their private lives from their homes. Which is completely different to your work, which is really creating an ongoing, story which you tell. I don't know. When did you start with this kind of performances?
So my graduation show, my degree show in Glasgow.
In Glasgow. When did you? When was it?
2-3 years ago now. 2007, 2-3, And we're now in 2008, aren't we? Yeah, about 2.5 years ago. And then since the graduation thing I did there, I just always been working on that, and then just with the same storylines, but just bombardment, again and again and again until they become totally foreign to me.
So the Zoom was the first?
Yeah, Hardgreen,
And before that, with which media did you work? I mean, what did you do? I
didn't work too much.
Okay.
Before that, when I was at art school, I generally I took, I did a degree in photography actually, photography and film. So I mainly made, I did large format, 6x7, big transparencies, and I was making photographs. But then I always wanted to say something about them, but I could never actually say it within the the limitations, but also the beauty of the photographs. It's just something was missing for me. And then at the end of it, I ended up just narrating also in relation to them. And then And then after that, I dealt with the photographs in a different way, as in, their motifs kind of were transformed into like vocabulary, like almost like verbal vocabulary for a story. And then from there, I just kept on doing that. So really, I mean, it hasn't really. This has been the only way I've been working, But yeah.
But they are still a part of your installations, the fundos, the archive of photos you're using. So are you developing your performances whenever you do new photos, when you go somewhere? For example, you're invited somewhere to do a performance, and then you take, in the meantime, you take photos there when you're not performing, and
usually when if I managed to do a show, like I visit first of all to meet the curator at Gebbers or whatever, and then I would photograph the environment, street signs on my way there, but not like snap, sometimes with a tripod, slide film, 6x7, like formalist photography basically, and I'd photograph the architecture of the space in a way that I thought could be fantastic for inserting into the future works. So it's not like, because, and then of course I'd email them and say, please send me some snapshots of the space. So it is, I kind of do that every time. It's only that I'm interested in photography, and if the work that I make for that particular context actually can pull out some of these different alignments, photographic alignments, perfect. If not, they just go to this endless archive, So, and that's kind of the way it really works. I mean, yeah.
So did you see Trish's performance here?
No, I'm sorry I missed it.
So but there is no film document of this, is there?
I love that.
A film document?
Yeah.
Oh, did the Performa people film? Did
No.
Tairone film it?
Secretly.
I thought I could trap you, but it didn't work out. There's no documentation.
Did you get your cell phone camera up and then spike it across the room?
We did do a radio documentation of it though. WPS1 came.
Yeah, they came. Yeah. But I do treat it differently, like radio or audio, just without the visual. But yeah, I mean they came by a couple of days ago, and I'm sure there are people. I mean, I'm sure even like Gabriella or Howie, the guys who run Dispatch, I'm sure they had a little bit, because they were taking photographs for the time.
Yeah, they're taking photos.
And I wasn't really paying attention to I wasn't getting out of my way to like tell people not to photograph. I'm sure people did. But it really wouldn't be interesting, to be honest. And it would even, in fact, it'd probably dispel some of the quality or the expectation you'd have if you thought, I wanted to see this performance, I want to come into space. If you saw it before, you'd probably actually be, I'm pretty sure you'd be disappointed. Because, you much better not to know really what you're going to get. And when you do see it, I mean, what is it? It's just me like I'm here and holding items and pointing at slides. I mean, it's really, it's not, I wouldn't say it's that exciting. I wouldn't find it interesting to watch that, myself, or if another artist did that. But to hear it as a vinyl, to put it on the vinyl, or to come and do it as to experience it directly with the person, I think I would be more inclined to do that,
Next up are those walking tours.
Do you make records then?
Sometimes.
That's really nice.
I know I gotta get myself a record player so I can get one of your records. I don't have a record player.
Yeah. No, I actually just I emailed the institution where they were produced a couple of days ago and asked them to send the whole batch to Dispatch to the place in New York, so people can then buy it. And they don't cost much. I don't even know how much they cost, but it's a 7-inch vinyl, and so I'm going to send some over. I mean, usually I just give them away for free anyway. It's always a good way to get away. It's always a good way to avoid having to make a publication or a catalogue. Print a vinyl, print a record.
There you go.
That's good. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we wanted to ask you about your project here.
Yeah.
So
Ronnie, you need a clapper.
Yeah.
A clapper?
Yeah, so we can go when it's over.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's no over, really. That's kind of like...
So when did you start this? It just started from the first day of Performa on and going into the last hour? Or?
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's the beginning and the end of the performance?
Well, yeah, it was supposed to start when the performance started, but it got set back because of technical difficulties. Yeah.
Why don't you take my chair? And
No, actually, I can sit here.
I'll sit here and then you go there.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's fitting that you'd be the last person that talk on Performa TV.
Okay, well, it'll still run for a little while too today, so.
Oh, that's true.
Come on in.
Yes.
Do you want to join us?
Yeah. We're having a
Conversation.
So, well, the project, I really had very little expectation. Or I just tried to keep it that way, that I was just going to do what it was going to do. I wasn't hoping for excitement or boredom. It was just this, send out invites, and then something happens or doesn't. So
and how many conversations did you have? How many things happened to you?
scheduled conversations? None. It was mostly all performances. And some were just very brief 5-minute performances. Some were, I did one that was 7 hours.
Wow.
And, well, that was a telethon. Because, you know, I am the station manager, so we needed to raise some funds.
You did a 7-hour-long telethon? I saw 2 minutes of your telethon. And I was like, oh my god. I liked it, but I had to stop.
Yeah. And a lot of people said, yeah, I tuned into your telethon. I watched it for 5 hours. Or
you were the Tamagotchi of the day.
Boring, because that's what telethons were. Because there were, you know, performances in between, the musical performances, but then in between.
You were in the telethon. You should definitely come in.
Come on in. Have a beer.
Early for a beer then. That's not bad, yeah.
A beer?
What do you mean telephone then?
A telephone? Well,
Yeah, I'm just thinking about well, I know of a telephone, but I mean...
yeah, that's it. Just the general idea of the telephone. We were selling, pretty much people would call in and donate, and they would call in, it was live, and we were trying to raise a certain amount of money, encourage people to call in, help out with it, and in exchange for a donation, we'd send them a sculpture or a CD that we had up on the walls.
Right.
And you were sponsored by Citibank.
No, that was part of the sculpture, actually. Yeah. And he brought that in the last day, or that day, like 5 minutes before. He said, okay, the sculpture's here, and we put it up and it said Citibank. I was like, okay, that seems really official. That's good. That's nice. I think it built the trust also for people to call and give us a credit card number. The Citibank logo, even though
you raised $1,000.
We raised $1,000. Yeah, and a lot of it I think was out of sympathy. And especially we had this one call, the last caller, we were at $920. I said, you know, I know that somebody out there is watching and they haven't donated yet, and they really want to, and they want to see us reach 1,000. Please call. And then 2 minutes before midnight, phone rang. We made our $1,000. It was so exhausting.
It's nearly like Tobias Meyer at Sotheby's. Come on, give me $1 million.
But yeah.
Which is a performance as well, I think they're actually.
Well, that's one thing, yeah, in particular, because live performance isn't really what I do. I'm too nervous about it, I guess. But when it's that functional, it seemed less of a performance to me and more just a task that I had to do this, repeat this number, and then tell people to call and then talk about the stuff, make them want the sculptures and the CD. Anyways, yeah. But as far as I was watching the thing from the other room, so interesting stuff about. So why is it that you don't put your work online?
You missed that bit, right?
Did you, because of the quality?
No, the quality doesn't bother me at all. Okay. It's just no interest, you know. I have no reason to want to make a very intimate experience, make it more communicable to more people. It's just there's no reason for it, you know. For me, to have other people, nameless people, clicking on these things to see what I do when I perform. There is no incentive. I mean, that doesn't really, you know, that's not really what I'm about. But there's the quality or the aesthetics. I think this Pixel performance is also quite interesting. I think the way in which it works, this internet thing, is also interesting. But as far as what I do, it's just not my as they say, it's not my cup of tea.
Okay. Yeah, I can dig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely, you know, it's a very indifferent. There's absolutely no. I'm not defiantly saying this is, you know, this is ruining my my blah blah blah. Totally not. It's just crossover. I'm going this way, and it's going on it's going over the other path. You know, it's going over and like a motorway.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Understandable.
But if someone did record a little bit and put it on there, yeah, I mean, that's inevitable as well.
Yeah.
And I know there are things on the internet that are up, you know, from previous performances and stuff. You know, you can't really. You don't want to waste your time trying to deal with all these little things, you know.
I can also.
It's a blog.
Well, for me, a lot of times internet-based work has this kind of, it's a bit forceful with technology. We're not there yet, I don't think. The quality's still bad, and it's kind of the idea of how virtual reality was in the 80s, when you saw work about virtual reality, because this is the new thing, and it was a little, I don't know, cheesy. And it might, for me, sometimes internet-based work is that same way, that it's okay, technology, it's trying to cram the technology, but it's not really ready to go yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, just as far as the quality, the stream, just how I was in the other room watching, and every now and then it would cut out the voice, and this is kind of an expensive stream too, and it's just not quite there. I don't know.
So what's that noise? Is that a heater or something? Like
The pipes, yeah.
Yeah,
Some guy in the basement.
it was,
Did you do a 360 of the whole room with the camera? Because I think, you know, the studio audience might be really interested in that over there.
yeah. Well, if I move the camera, it goes offline because it's the fire wire is kind of loose. It's just,
You could hold it in.
I could probably, maybe when it shuts off, I'll try to do a 360 and then it'll cut.
That would be good.
Putting the carpet
The
in
last
the
shot,
ceiling, yeah.
showing the whole room.
Yeah, I was really excited also about this being out here and this being here.
Did you have any ghosts? Did you catch any ghosts when no one was in the room?
That's an
during your live
interesting
stream?
question. Yeah.
That's a question.
Maybe you should have done infrared while you were on.
It's not too late,
Fingers crossed.
but there was a pipe explosion in here. Yeah, all that rust on the ground.
Oh, that's nice. Full explosion. This was the Manhattan Project was in this building, right? So maybe ghosts of scientists wander through.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Do you know?
Manhattan Project was in this building?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just a real specific part of it to test. What was it? They had huge generators downstairs, and they needed to run extraordinary amounts of current through objects to see if it would sustain.
So it wasn't like one of the centrifuge things, or not one of the centrifuge ones. That wasn't like a particle splitter, was it?
No.
Oh.
This was just, it's like the most powerful generator in the world is here, or something like that. Isn't that what it is? Or
I just know it was a rumor when I was here 10 years ago, and I had a friend that went through the building with a Geiger counter to see if the building was clean or not, and it was fine.
it was fine?
It was just funny that he did it. He's a very neurotic person.
Oh, so he did it for his own safety. There's a sense in this building that I get that it's not healthy.
See infrared, leave it on, turn it on at 2 in the morning for ghosts.
Infrared, that's all it takes.
Isn't that how people photograph ghosts with their cameras? Because you see the heat. Heat.
But would a ghost have heat? They
No,
don't have
it's less heat. It actually
less heat,
chills
they're
the air.
colder.
Chills the air.
So maybe they're going to visit special ghosts which only occur in live stream ghosts. I don't know, maybe.
That would have been better if I said that's why I leave it running all the time, to see ghosts.
Maybe that's the whole purpose of the thing.
It is.
I thought it was to spy on your guests.
Oh, my guests?
Yeah.
No, well, I thought I could do that from my house and just say, okay, I just go up there and do it, but I realized that I have to let everyone in, start push play. like accommodate. So I really haven't. Every now and then I've tuned in, which actually I haven't really watched it that much, but I've tuned in. I've seen people in here. And I'm like, who's this? Just kind of looking around. Somebody said the other day, yeah, I watched your Performa thing. I watched it for like 15 minutes and nothing was happening. And then you came and you grabbed your scarf. It was pretty cool. Like I had a scarf on a chair, I guess. I thought that's pretty interesting if something like that's cool.
Or in this format, anything becomes a performance.
I don't know if I'd push it that far.
No.
You don't think?
Somebody watching you put up the ceiling or something and you fell?
Yeah.
And they
I
called you?
was back here doing some hanging lights and I fell.
Yeah.
And they called me the next day and said, oh, I saw you fall. No, they didn't say it was okay. They were kind of laughing about it.
Me.
But that's nothing new either. I mean, people have been streaming themselves for a while. But so I don't think there's anything breakthrough about this at all. Well, it's just... So I was hoping that the performances would kind of... Actually, like I said, I had no real expectations. Just set it up and let it roll.
But you created this backdrop, so you wanted to feel people at home, or
Comfortable.
So just
or
loose. Just like they want to talk if they're at home, or what was the purpose?
Just, I don't know, I was thinking if they wanted to do performance, it could accommodate that because there's space. If they wanted to just have discussions, it could accommodate that because it's in the guise of comfort. And there's a refrigerator, and then
It's good to keep things cold. It's a smart addition.
And then I built it and I realized it was too contained, so I had to make a window.
Okay.
So it was all, like I said, it was still task-based. I just, here's the job, just do this.
No, because it's also already a setting, it's a defined space because of the color, because of all the things you put in here.
Yeah, it's not really neutral.
Exactly. It's not a white cube.
Yeah, I didn't want white. Something more domestic. It was very, kind of clinical maybe. It was too white, too clean. Which would be its own thing also, but it was just seemed even more forced, I think.
So this is domestic for you, this kind of wallpaper, peach wallpaper. I guess it could be in the bathroom, yeah.
Well, I grew up in Texas, so this is actually...
Quite domestic.
I'm very comfortable.
Okay.
Okay, I think
Thank you.
it was quite interesting. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So you...
Was that being recorded? Like, was
I
that?
think it was recorded. What
Yeah, I
was
didn't-
recorded?
I didn't-
You still recording something?
I didn't. When I met him, I said to him, oh,
This is my job.
and I mentioned your name.